somehow get the link. You know when is the recording going now? Okay, awesome. Okay, thanks everyone for coming tonight. This is our third cooking class for 2022. Hey Donna, if you can sit right towards the back there. Good to see you, Donna. This whole series is we've been focusing on plant-based recipes. And, Teresa, I don't know where your book is. I think it's here. Listen, they refer to this or talk about this more later, but this is a book that Teresa's been pulling the recipes from, and of course, the importance of cooking fresh and cooking from scratch, and all those great nutrients in that. And Lori Graff, I'm going to introduce her. Lori Graff is joining us through Zoom here tonight from her kitchen in West Des Moines. And Lori has been a registered dietitian that we've been partnering with now for many years, very knowledgeable. And so Lori is going to be sharing tonight about this recipe specifically and why it's so healthy for us. And then there's always opportunities to have some Q&A and get some more feedback from Lori. So any questions you have is always great for that. And I want to introduce my favorite chef here, Teresa, and good friend. Teresa is a former member of the board of Above and Beyond Cancer, but a longtime supporter, has been with us ever since we were founded, and generously donates all of her time for our cooking classes. And then Jill, the lady behind the camera, she is our director who's also donates her time for Above and Beyond Cancer in these cooking classes. So we've got a great group tonight. We also have a big group. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Teresa and get started. I know there was some fumbling there on the recipes that I emailed out. So Teresa will be talking about the roasted tomatoes. If any of you have tomatoes with you at home, you want to give yourself a raise of your hand if you plan to roast tomatoes tonight.
Okay, great.
Okay, we got 2 people. All right.
Okay, that's great. That's fine. We're going to get started with the cauliflower steaks. And that I had 4 heads of cauliflower. I have made steaks with 3 of them, but I'm going to show you how to slice this because it's kind of tricky. And that's why you're going to have residual cauliflower. So I did steaks with 3 heads, and then I have all of this left over. So there'll be more recipes for cauliflower, either roast it off or do a mash. But I want to show you. All right. So there's a core on the cauliflower, and we're going to slice. I'm going to take the bottom leaves off, and maybe all of you have prepped yours already. But you need the cauliflower to stay together in order to have a steak. So I'm going to slice some of the stem off just because it's really long, but I've taken much of the leaves off, but the core is still there. All right. Now we're going to go down the middle. You're supposed to be able to get 4 steaks out of this. And of the first 2, I had difficulty getting 4 steaks out. So what I did differently was, now I have it in half. I'm going to take 1 and I'm going to show you. Hi, Katie. Hi. And we're going to slice kind of parallel to that core. But I'm going to show you, you're only going to get 1 steak out of that if that's the way you slice. And then you got all this stuff. It's still yummy goodness, but you only got 1 steak off of half of that. So you need to take and slice lengthwise on the core, and that's going to hold the steaks together. So rather than come off the top, you're going to slice this way, and you're going to have a better, so you're going to take the core and You're not going to have perfect steaks, but your cauliflower is going to hold together. And I'm sure if you have massive cauliflower heads, you can get bigger out of it. But this is what you're going to end up with. So basically, I ended up with 4, but I had to do it a little differently. So you get less waste, but how pretty those are, right? It's steaks. So 2 tablespoons of oil, salt, and pepper. Let's start this pan because the secret to this is to seal. So you've taken your oil and spread it on your cauliflower with your salt and pepper. And basically the first 5 minutes at 500 degrees is going to steam your cauliflower. Yes, and we'll talk about olive oil. Lori always talks about olive oil. I'll tell you my opinion on olive oil. But we've got a rocket hot oven. Should have taken that out of there.
I'll get it. We can get it.
Does it go on the cauliflower itself, or does it go all over the pan?
It goes over the cauliflower. I'll show you how to do it here in just a minute. I just wanted to get that one in the oven. Okay, so 5 minutes. We'll start steaming that cauliflower. Then we're going to take the foil off, and it will roast 8 minutes on one side. We'll flip it over 8 minutes on the other side. So I've got that pan that I prepped already in the oven, but we're going to do this together. So we're going to put our steaks on our pan, and I've got my handy dandy sprayer. So it's 2 tablespoons per pan. So we're just going to be generous with it though. Do that. So we're going to get olive oil all over our cauliflower, really good olive oil that we like. And that's pure olive oil. And then I use a diamond salt. So, all right. And then we flip it over, some more salt. Remember, salt enhances and draws out the liquid. So that's not too much salt, folks. That is not too much salt. And then pepper. Pepper all over this. And then our foil again. And I'll put this one in after that one comes out, but no hassle.
There's a lot of things.
Everything, right?
Okay, did that kind of fast. Anybody have questions? Everybody's got their cauliflower. Okay. We're just gonna set that aside. All right, put that one in the bottom of the oven at 500 degrees. So yes, it's rocket hot, but I think it's the only way we're gonna get good flavor. Laura, you want to talk about what cauliflower does for us? Thank you. Are you there?
Yes, I had to unmute myself. Cauliflower is just a powerhouse that we don't often talk about. It's best known for being just low in carbs and calories, but it is rich in antioxidants that decrease inflammation. It is a good source of vitamin C, and it's also a great source of fiber. So fiber we need for that digestive health, really trying to get in 25 grams of fiber per day. The average American gets only 5 to 10 grams of fiber per day. So, And cauliflower is super easy to pair with almost everything.
Lori, would you say in general to increase fiber would be just by cooking in general with whole foods that you're by naturally going to increase your fiber?
Correct. Yeah, using fruits and vegetables. The average American only consumes 1 serving of fruit or 1.5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So yeah, that's the simplest, easiest way to do it. And yummy.
And then one of the themes, we talked about tonight is, this sense of food being an anti-inflammatory benefit. So is there anything about cauliflower specifically or the foods that we're serving tonight that are great in anti-inflammatory properties?
Well, cauliflower itself is really rich in bioactive compounds, antioxidants, which are going to decrease your inflammation. And understanding inflammation is a sick cell. So basically, for some reason, that cell is not able to produce energy and take out waste. And the number one way to make a cell healthy is having good nutrition. I mean, we talk about so many things and so many different supplements to do, whether we're talking about detoxification or healthy eyes or immunity, but a good overall rounded nutrition for as many vitamins, minerals, flavonoids, antioxidants that we can get. And that's what's really great about this recipe is because we start with cauliflower, but then we're going to add so many other powerhouses of just overall nutrition.
So I'm just going to interrupt for just a moment, Lori.
Yeah.
Our 5 minutes is up, and we're going to take our foil off, and now we're going to put it back in the oven. So now we're going to do 8 minutes on a side. So we did a little bit of steaming there. See? Now we're going to go back in. And now we'll do 8 minutes on a side.
At the same temperature.
Yes. Right, 500 degrees. Hot oven. All right. So, I think I'll do the chimichurri sauce now. So we have white food. It's not really our rainbow. And now we're going to do some really green sauce that's going to go over the cauliflower. All right. And we're doubling up, and I'm going to use the food processor. And I talked about this last time. When we have herbs, now the reason I chopped this up before I put it in the food processor is I just wanted it to fit in the bowl. But I washed it, and then we're going to use the stems because the stems are healthy. They have plenty of moisture in them, and we're going to put them in the food processor. Okay, and then same for mint. I just rinsed and then chopped just the bottoms off that I thought were a little brown on the herbs. And again, I'm doubling the recipe, so it looks like there's more in my food processor than maybe your food processor at home. We have vinegar. It said to chop the garlic. I'm not chopping the garlic. Capers. I love capers. And then, again, I've doubled my olive oil, and we have this conversation pretty much every class, but it is olive oil, all olive oil. There's no soybean oil. There's nothing else in there.
Did you rinse the capers? I mean, why would you rinse the capers? That's good stuff that Brian did.
I didn't rinse them.
Oh.
I just drained them a little bit, so I didn't. Maybe next time I just throw the caper juice in because I do like it. It's nice and salty.
No, this is rinse.
Yeah, I didn't.
So
rinse.
is it basically a brine? Is it like? a
Yeah,
vinegar?
sometimes depending on what you purchase, this is a brine. Sometimes they come salt pack, and then you would rinse them
Oh.
because it's a dry.
Okay.
It's a dry pack. there's no brine in it. So depending on how the recipe is worded, I don't know, maybe in the book, but
Yes.
that's why I would rinse capers if they're salt packed. All right, olive oil, vinegar, capers. Do we need salt or pepper?
Yep.
Okay, we'll do some of that. No salt. So basically, we're gonna make kind of a pesto. And we're gonna whirl this around. Be loud for just a minute. Got to plug it in first, so it can be loud. And he does use a spatula to.
So Lori, a question here. I know that, Teresa's been salting the cauliflower and salting a little bit, talking about salt into the parsley pesto, so to speak. And, there's a lot of talk about, too much sodium and low sodium. Will you explain, why it's important to salt when we're cooking and eating fresh and the difference of that versus, the sodium in processed food, so we can kind of clear up any of that falsities?
Right. Yeah, that is a big one. Is that there's just so much education about low salt being really, really bad. However, if you're eating a whole foods diet, it is very, very important that you salt your food, because salt is one of the electrolytes. And without all your electrolytes, you'll have a very hard time staying hydrated. Will be right away something that you'll notice. So even though you're drinking water, you just feel like you have to go to the bathroom right away, or you're still thirsty over and over again. Also, salt, it will help you produce stomach acid. Super, super, super important. As we age, we produce less and less stomach acid, which means we absorb less and less of the nutrients because we do not break them down. So salt is so valuable that once upon a time, instead of money, they used it as currency. And that's where the word salary comes from. So if you're eating a whole foods diet, you purposely need to add salt every day, and adding it to the food like Teresa shows us, that helps bring out the flavors.
So we really want to make sure it's not, it definitely lessening our processed food. It's not the same value to have all that added sodium in our processed food. The key is cooking whole food and then salting those whole foods.
Correct. Because a processed food, you might, there's there are foods out there that you might get a whole, teaspoon, half a teaspoon of salt in one serving of something. Now when you're cooking, you might be using 1 teaspoon of salt in a whole batch of something. So the quantity that you're getting is by far no means close to what you're getting eating the typical American diet, which we call SAD.
So that SAD diet, that typical American diet, would you say, because you talked about earlier about inflammation and, the importance of getting nutrients, would you kind of say like the more processed foods we eat, they're probably more connection to having issues with chronic inflammation?
Correct, because we're just not going to get the nutrition. All your B vitamins, all your minerals, vitamin C, all your antioxidant have to come from eating an abundant, a huge variety, and really, these fresh whole foods.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Lori.
So when we talk about salt, Lori, we're not talking about iodized table salt, at least in the kitchen collage kitchen. We're talking about
Right.
diamond
Good point.
salt, coarse sea salt, Fleur-de-Sel, and then Trapani Italian salt is another great salt that we have. So we can talk about that later, but it is not all the same. It doesn't get lumped into the same thing. And that's why it's absorbed differently as well.
And a key component is that salts that Teresa just mentioned have minerals in them. And again, you might think, wow, I'm only eating such a small amount, but our mineral and our vitamin nutrient, we need such a high amount, and all that, those little pieces add up over time. It's not what we eat in one day, it's what we eat day after day after day for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years.
Okay. We're gonna flip our steaks. This is rocket hot.
Gorgeous.
All right. Let's see, what do I have here?
You're not just gonna use your fingers, Teresa? Come on.
Just the fingers, baby.
That's meant for 10 minutes or?
That was 8 minutes
After the 5.
after the 5.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna go 8 minutes again. And then I'm gonna put in another pan. Ooh, that's pretty.
Those
I
are
can't
gorgeous.
imagine if you're a restaurant and you've put this on the menu, how many heads of cauliflower you're gonna go through in a night.
Because you can only get that cut. You
Yeah.
can only get that cut 1 or 2 times.
Right, the next night it's gonna be mashed cauliflower.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, or, right, cauliflower pizza or something. All right.
I have a question with this salt. A couple years ago, I went with King Salt.
Yep. Himalayan, you bet.
And my last blood test, they said that I had a deficit in iodine.
Oh,
So
well,
what other foods can you eat with the iodine back in and not getting some more salt?
that's a question for Lori. What foods give us iodine instead of just salt?
Shellfish and algae, anything from the sea.
Ah, wonderful.
Which actually being iodine deficient, we do need to, that is a going issue. We just want to get it again from the whole foods versus the processed salt.
So, one thing we keep learning is that the quality of the ingredients make a difference. So like salt, which you explained, and we talked about oil. We've talked about this many times in other classes, but again, we've got new people tonight. So let's talk about why the quality of olive oil and where we want to be purchasing our olive oils.
Well, I'm not going to get into really necessarily where. I just think that as we talk about US produced olive oil, the 2 states that produce olive oil that you want to, that have standards would be California and Georgia. And then there are different places in the world that produce olive oil, and they have additives. They have different rules. So you just want to make sure you have 100% olive oil that you're buying. So just like when you buy local foods and you know your producers, that's all I'm doing. I'm just figuring out who I can buy from and who produced it. So we're not going to pronounce the name of the olive oil. I'll pass it around. But
Yeah. So we pronounced it last.
yeah, it
last month.
wasn't very good the way I pronounced it.
Ask something.
She went ahead. She went ahead and did it.
So it all tastes wonderful, but I'll let Lori talk a little bit about what's added to our olive oils when we're not paying attention.
Yeah. When you are getting olive oil outside of the United States and it's not listed as organic, it is 80% soybean oil. Now, it doesn't say that on the container, I realize. It says it's 100%, but they do not need to follow the same rules and regulations that we have in the United States. So it is 80% soybean oil and then roughly 20% olive oil. So you are not getting all the benefits of the olive oil.
And if you're worried about the price and sometimes the flavor is lost if you're frying, use grapeseed oil because it's high flash point. It works great. And then finish with your olive oil that you spent a lot of money on for that flavor. Add that to your dressings, or it really does make a difference.
And of course, spraying it helps too, versus
Right.
like if you're gonna pour it or whatever.
That helps, right? That helps. So then you use less, or mix it up in a dish before you put it in your pan. But
Is that the olive oil you have in your?
The other thing is it is an oil, so it does go rancid. And again, you lose health benefits and it actually becomes inflammatory, not anti-inflammatory, after a couple months. So you actually want to buy a small bottle of oil and buy it more frequently, keeping it away from heat and away from light.
right, don't have it in a glass container, dark container, something that does not take direct light. Put it in the cupboard. Don't put it in your windowsill. Right.
I better start cooking that olive oil.
Okay, I'm gonna whirl around the chimichurri sauce one more time here. This recipe can be used for anything. And if you're doing steaks on the grill, it'd be fabulous if you're doing beef steaks on the grill. Yummy. All right. Or if you roasted all your cauliflower off in the pan, you could just put it on that too. So we're going to plate up in about 3 minutes our cauliflower steaks here. Does anybody have any questions about chimichurri sauce or ingredients?
Did you say anything about capers? Like what are capers?
Capers are berries off of a bush.
Okay.
They're and different sizes. Mediterranean is where the derivation is from. They're derived. But I don't know where they're grown now all over, but Mediterranean is where they're originating. So
Lori, are there any benefits from capers? And we also haven't talked about parsley, which I know is obviously a very bright, green, beautiful herb.
There are quite a few nutrients in capers. Now, you're not going to eat a lot of them. So I think the benefit comes back to every cooking class. Again, so if you've been to many cooking classes, you've heard us say this, but eating, trying to get at least 30 different plant foods in per week, 30 to 50 if you want to be a superstar. And if you use capers, that's one more plant food. So you don't have to eat a lot of something to have it count towards getting in a different plant food. Parsley, I think because it's not sexy and it's been used, just as a decorative vegetable for so long, doesn't get all the recognition that it deserves. Of all the green foods out there, went through the kale couple years. Parsley, one of the most nutritious leafy greens.
wow.
Because it has all the flavonoids in it. It is super high in all the B vitamins. It has lutein and zeaxanthin for the eyes. It contains a really healthy dose of vitamin C, and it helps the liver detox. So it's inexpensive, because I hear people say all the time, well, eating healthy is very expensive. It's very expensive. Parsley, not expensive. You can grow it here in Iowa. You can grow it year round in your house. It is super, super, super healthy. As a almost the healthiest leafy green vegetable out there. And I say because it's very low in the oxalates that the other vegetables have.
Thank you.
Vitamin K for bones.
So I have a question for Lori. So, well, Teresa, you mentioned cauliflower in restaurants, and we see cauliflower in all kinds of ingredients now. And, it sounds like, there's these vegetables that kind of like come into favor, like Brussels sprouts were everywhere a while ago, and we talked about beets and parsley more. And so, like, what's the next hot ingredient, or what you'd like to see on menus that you think is like what's underused out there from a nutritional standpoint?
To me, parsley is underused. I mean, we talk about it in almost every cooking class because it is one of the therapeutic greens for detoxification of the liver. It's probably not going to be the hot item in restaurants because it's harder to serve by itself. They're probably not going to serve a entree of a parsley.
Lori, I'm going to chime in. In some, parsley is trending because in January, it's hard to get basil and it's easy to get parsley. So it is a product that is then used for pesto. And
Right.
if you really want to ramp it up, you whirl it around with an anchovy. So you get the iron that we were talking about, and no one knows there's an anchovy in there.
Yeah.
It's just salty.
Yeah, I use parsley all the time for my pesto.
So how are our at-home cookers doing? Teresa has been plating with a little bit of the chimichurri. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing anything. And some of the roasted tomato, which she'll talk about here in a little bit. I know some of you were doing some roasting.
One more after.
Okay, Katie's gonna get a little bit of that, and then you'll have more, Katie, in a minute. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it sounds like a shamrock.
Teresa,
Or Dennis.
one thing that I do with your extras is do exactly what you just did, but roast them in, florets, thank you. And I combine it with broccoli
See ya.
and
Thanks.
put like lemon and olive oil on it, and my kids go crazy.
Here, there's
Yeah.
the lemon. Yeah,
Take one.
absolutely, take a lemon. It's supposed to garnish with the lemon, folks.
You
Sorry.
can sit right there if you want.
Put a piece of lemon on it. All right. So we had roasted tomatoes on our menu tonight, and if you look at the recipe, it's a couple hours long. So rather than stumble through some of that, I wanted to talk about the time of year to roast tomatoes and the flavor impact that you can have. So I'm going to show you how I slice them and put them on the parchment. So,
So we picked out this recipe, and then in conversation, Teresa just decided with tomatoes not being in season. Did you already talk about this?
a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, my mind was somewhere else. So, never mind. I'm just not gonna talk now. Reverse.
So I want you all to think about how, and Lori talks about whole foods and what time of year you can have those. Here. Whole foods, and they're at their richest point, which in Iowa, our tomatoes are August and September, and usually you can find somebody that says, I have so many tomatoes, I can't stand them anymore. And those are the people you want to talk to, because what I do is these are Roma. This is how I froze mine. I put them in, I roast them off, and then I put them on parchment and then put more parchment on top and layer. So I have probably, I don't know, 2 cups of tomatoes that roast down to just a little bit. But the intensity that goes with that tomato, oh,
I got it.
yeah, take the foil off in 8 minutes. The intensity that goes with it. So Mary and I were kind of laughing. She brought me in 2 big bags of tomatoes and we roasted it down to almost nothing in 2 hours. And oh my God, it's not worth it, but it is worth it. In August and September, it's worth it because you freeze this and then you use it in dips and soups, and people wonder where the flavor came from. Well, it came from those garden tomatoes that you didn't really want to spend time with in August and September. So basically, in order to roast a tomato, all we're going to do, folks, got our tomato knife or whatever knife you have, but I have a tomato knife. A tomato knife looks like this, has 2 forks at the end. And the reason it has 2 forks, I've washed my tomato, is because you're going to go in and core. My mother used to do this like 100 miles an hour. And then it just pulls the core out, right? Right, that's what it's for, right? And then you're gonna do whatever thickness you want to do. And these, I did 2 trays, and this is what it basically boiled down to. But again, we're gonna core this baby, and these are hydroponics. They are not wonderful tomatoes when it comes to wonderful tomatoes. Again, they're out of our gardens, not out of our grocery stores. So if you want to have a goal for the summer, would be to not necessarily grow tomatoes, but to get some. I cannot grow anything, so I rely on people that overgrow.
Which would be my parents.
And those,
They start begging people to come to the garden and pick their tomatoes.
do those have to be fully ripe for roasting or?
Yeah, I would say so. Otherwise, you're gonna get something bitter. I haven't tried to do green ones. That would be a challenge.
Yeah.
So again, we got our little olive oil sprayer, folks. And I did, on these other tomatoes, I did mince some garlic. So I'll tell you what my little trick was, my little hack off of the recipe is I took the oil that it was recommended to use to put on the tomatoes, and I put it in a saucepan with 2 cloves of garlic, and I brought it to a boil and then let it cool down. So I had my oil now is infused with garlic, and that's what I put on these tomatoes. And then a little bit of oregano and that oil. And that gives it a nice flavor. But when you're roasting them, you don't have to do that because you don't know how you're going to use your tomatoes that you've bagged for the season. But just for the sake of things, we'll put a little oregano and a little salt on these. I'm not going to worry about doing garlic. Can you taste the garlic on your tomato? All right. So what else do I want to put on there? Salt. A little bit of salt. And we'll wait till our other cauliflower comes out. I will roast these at about 400 degrees for, I don't know, half an hour. But then you turn the temp down in the oven and it takes 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours before it actually dehydrates. And then it looks like a squishy little tomato like this, right? And it's so thin, but the flavor is so intense. I don't know what you think. Yeah, it is intense. Or another fun thing to do with roasted tomatoes, you got to bring an hors d'oeuvre. So you make a bunch of roasted tomatoes, and then you just take your favorite very thin slice of cheese or something like that and roll it up, and it's just tastes like pizza. It really does.
Oh, wow.
It does. It's a little cheap, but
Like a fresh mozzarella.
yeah. I wonder if I have some.
Lori, what would you like to say are the highlights of tomatoes? Health-wise.
Rich in vitamin C, but really great with lutein for eye health and skin health. If you're getting it will decrease your chance of sunburn.
Really?
Wow.
Wow. Eat lots of tomatoes, folks.
That's
Mhm.
Lori, are there nutrient differences? I mean, of course, Teresa talked about like the difference of taste for an in-season tomato grown from the garden versus a grocery store one grown in a greenhouse or out of season. Is there a nutrient difference from a garden tomato versus a store-bought one out of season?
There is, I can't give you the exact percentage, but the amount of nutrients could be like half as much or cut in half
That's great.
because they were picked so green.
Would that be kind of similar to almost any fruit or vegetable if it was picked so soon? We're losing out on some of that nutrient value.
Yeah, yeah. And especially with the fruits and vegetables that are picked very green, which tomatoes are one of them.
So, and if I remember then, one, again, locally sourcing as close as you can, that's going to be sooner off the vine. And then the second option would be frozen. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, frozen are picked at their peak because they go fairly quickly from the field to the factory to be frozen.
I think you can get some pretty good tomatoes canned as well. And that's really the best I have found in the winter.
Well, again, because our canned tomatoes aren't picked green. They are very fresh tomatoes again that have been canned.
Right. Hey, how are the cauliflower steaks turning out at home? Have you guys been able to sample your veggie steak?
We have a few more minutes on ours to try to cook, but they smell delicious. So
Oh, fantastic.
But-
Sam, have you been able to try yours yet?
I think he was just getting a beer out of his fridge.
Or a whiskey sour?
Actually, I'm having a nice a light Craig bourbon that I infused cherries and ginger. So
Well, good thing you're eating that parsley to detox the liver that you just added toxins to. So good
it's
job.
all about balance. It's all about balance. I listen to Lori.
Yes.
I had my cranberry organic dandelion honey this morning.
Yes.
But I have 2 minutes and 6 seconds until I get to pull my California steaks out of the oven.
Awesome. And Lori, I don't know if you know this, but since that cooking class months ago, Sam's been making that detoxifying beverage that you recommended and loves it. Joe Kay and Maria or Rochelle, how are you guys doing on yours?
Ours is cooking. We have 6 more minutes. We had a little more prep to do than some.
Okay, great. Marcy and Rochelle.
Hi, Marcy. I didn't see you before. Hi, Marcy.
Your guys is cooking still too?
Yep, we're in the same boat as Joe K. We've got about 5 more minutes.
Okay,
Cooking.
awesome. And Maria, how are you guys doing there? She's looking at her plant-based.
I'm just following along.
Oh, okay, awesome.
We're doing takeout Thai.
Are you? That is hilarious. I love how you just threw yourself under the bus. We won't shame you too much with that.
Maria, the next class has tofu pad thai.
Yep, tofu
So,
pad thai for
You
April.
won't have to do it.
Oh,
Yeah. So we'll get that up for
Okay.
registration in a couple days if you want to snag that spot here. So those of you, we here at Kitchen Collage, we've been tasting. What do you guys think so far of those cauliflower steaks? Is there something that sticks out as you were saying it's delicious, like as far as texture or flavor that is hitting a home run for you?
Yes.
The
Okay, I'm not gonna try.
chimichurri,
like Jimmy.
chimichurri.
Okay,
Chimichurri. So that's
I
what
made it
Jimmy
the
was.
other day with cilantro and parsley.
Yes, yes.
So the reason you meant for this was.
Recipe, but some people don't like
Cilantro.
cilantro. It tastes like soap.
Yeah, that's true. I know that.
So mint is
But
a good
this is
mix.
really good too.
So the chimichurri was a big hit. What do you think, Brenda? You look like you wanted to say something
I
there.
like the chimichurri sauce. That should.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
Jimmy.
Chimichurri, yeah, chimichurri.
Jimmy Choo shoes. Jimmy Churri.
Did he ask if it could be made with cilantro?
Yes.
It can be.
And yes, a lot of chimichurris are made with cilantro as well. The reason for that is because, you know, the region of the country that serves a lot of this is for South American, excuse me, countries where the temperature is really hot and parsley doesn't grow great in hot weather where the cilantro, well, neither of them I actually do, but yes, they quite a few of them will have the cilantro.
You just add cilantro.
Oh. Question about some tomatoes. Some medical doctors are out there now saying tomatoes can lead to leaky gut syndrome. What are some myths about that or facts for Lori?
Yeah, okay. If you already have GI issues, there is a percentage of the population where tomatoes could bother them. Or anything that falls in that category of, typically they call lectins. However, it isn't everybody and it's not because of the GI issue.
All right.
Yeah. Good question.
You had a question. You want a clarification on something?
I was asking about using cilantro in the sauce. Would you sub that out for the mint or would you try about just adding it to it?
Oh, yay. Nice.
Oh, it's whatever anybody has in their house. I mean,
I saw them, Sam.
yeah, basil going on, whatever you want to do.
Let's see it, Sam. What are you showing off? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, those are pretty.
Oh,
Look at that.
gorge.
Okay, only because I have lots of tomatoes and Lori, I'm gonna do this, I'm just on the fly. I have lots of roasted tomatoes. I'm gonna throw them in my food processor with a little bit of salt and some feta and some, if I can find some olives in my fridge, so we have a tapenade.
Ooh.
Maybe some red peppers.
Bonus.
I don't know if any of that comes forth, but I think we'll make 25 ingredients in our day.
Well, olives have to be good for us, right, Lori? There's some good value to olives.
There's great value to olives. The Mediterranean diet, you know, was typically they ate the olives, not the olive oil.
Everybody in my fridge is. I'm gonna use that, I have some anchovies that I opened last week. I'm gonna throw some anchovies. Oh, yeah, right. They're full of olive oil too. Ooh, I have some of those left over, Val. I'll throw that in too.
That's awesome. Okay. Are you ready to- oh,
3 minutes.
Is that- And it doesn't need flipped again, right?
Nope, it's time.
There we go. So, where's my video? Here it is.
How we doing at home? Getting more out of the oven? Maria.
I know how it tastes.
Sam, turned out good for you? Tasting good? Nice.
10 seconds out.
Yeah, that's yummy.
Awesome. Joe Kay, did you guys get a sample yours yet?
Pulling them out right now.
Oh, sweet. Christine, they look like they're getting close here, her and Liberty.
We're gonna see if this tastes.
We are plating currently.
Ah, nice. So how's it taste?
What's that? This is the more expensive of the two. This is the most.
Okay, here's ours. They turned out lovely. Oh, those are beautiful, Joe Kay. Wow.
Have a good sous chef.
Let's see. Joe Kay's look great. She just pulled them out of the oven there. And I think Christine and Liberty are getting to taste theirs or plating here pretty soon as well. That's not possible. Not possible.
They're done. They're good.
Oh, let's see. Let's see your pretty plate. Oh, fantastic. Nice.
So how would we add some protein into this meal?
Stir fry some chicken. You could, in your chimichurri sauce, you could throw anchovies.
What about roasting like chickpeas with that cauliflower? Would that be okay, Lori, to roast chickpeas?
You could roast chickpeas and serve with it if you wanted to stay a vegetarian, or lentils, of course, with chimichurri sauce, or you would serve the protein of your choice, and then you can put a chimichurri sauce over the cauliflower and the protein, whether that be steak.
Yeah. What about a fish, like roasting a fish or something with that?
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that sauce would be good on a fish as well.
Very. Mhm.
You can't just put peanut butter on it, Lori?
Only if you top it.
Always nice to have you in class, Sam.
There's always got to be one troublemaker, Lori.
That's right. Keep us on our toes.
Just put it right here. Just put it on top of that. Katie wants more? Get you a plate. You have a plate?
Yeah, she's got her plate.
You got like the little florets. Sounds like somebody's cheap. Want a little chimichurri?
Oh, I'll just take the whole thing. Yeah, it's yummy.
You want a little of that, just to try?
Sure.
What did you say?
What did you end up adding in when you said it did the little something?
Balsamic vinegar. So this would be great for like some crudité, I think. So anybody want to try?
What did you call it?
Like a tapenade is what it's like, right?
So you could do a little cauliflower.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have like a little cracker or something.
All right, did you guys, everyone get to taste there?
Yeah.
That's got great.
Yay. So what are you guys thinking? Is the recipe a keeper? Something you'd like to try again or make again?
Definitely.
Yes, Rochelle, yeah, nice. Bree, are you wishing you weren't ordering pad thai right now? Joe K, has this been a keeper for you? Have you had a chance to sample yet?
We haven't had a chance to sample because we decided to make chicken to go along with it.
Oh,
So now I'm
sick.
working on the chicken in the Instapot. So
Okay.
it'll be ready pretty soon.
Very good. Well, it sounds like we've gotten all thumbs up here on this end with the recipe, which again was a first timer for us, coming from one of Teresa's new favorite cookbooks.
Okay, and just as a cheat, you guys, we took our roasted tomatoes and threw some feta and some olive oil and some capers and some balsamic vinegar and anchovies, whirled it around, and now we're going to eat it with our leftover cauliflower that we didn't roast. Winner, winner.
Nice.
Anything else? Anybody's got
Any other questions for Lori or Teresa for cooking questions or nutrition questions?
I hope you thought it was fun. It was really fun to prep and do.
Oh, there you go. Time's up.
No, it's good. It was really good.
On other things.
Well, thank you everyone for who dialed in with us from home and cooked with us. It's always great to see faces, and we hope to see you at another cooking class or another Above and Beyond Cancer event. If you have not checked out the website on our calendar on our website, I encourage you to do so. It's a quick glance of all the things we have going on. We have a lot of great activities, including outdoor hikes and book club, and I can't even remember all of them now, but there's bike club starts up here in May. So there's just a lot going on. And of course, we'll be getting that next April cooking class out here in the next couple of days, making tofu pad thai. So keep cooking, start from scratch, start whole foods and do that as much as you can. And Lori, it makes a big difference, right?
It does.
Yeah. Thanks again, Lori. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Bye, Priya. Bye, Joe K. Bye, Liberty and Christine and Sam and Rochelle and Marcy and Joe K. That's right.
What is it that you